Episode 65, A Life Well Lived. Welcome to Longing for More, where Christians come to strengthen their faith, revive their soul, and learn to live their lives with a sense of fulfillment and peace. Listen each week to learn how to incorporate your faith into your daily activities, stop wandering through life feeling empty and unfulfilled, and begin to live your more. Let's get started. We Americans as a whole are so blessed. Our land is vast and varied and as beautiful as any other. I, for one, haven't seen nearly enough of it, partly because I know I can and just assume I'll make the time someday. As I say that, after having lived nearly 6 decades that have flown by, it occurs to me that I'd better hurry up. I don't know how many more days I'll have. I'm hoping I have many and can not only travel to see the Grand Canyon, but can also sail the Great Lakes and experience the colors in New England in the fall some year. You see, I didn't realize that I'd been taking the opportunity to visit these landmarks for granted until I attended a celebration of life for a man who was not even born in America. This man and his family had very little when he was young, and he decided at a very early age to come to this land of the free. That he ended up in South Dakota is a story all its own, and not mine to tell. But what I do want to tell is the fact that he arrived here with $27 in his pocket, and he died many years later a very wealthy man. From my standpoint, having only met him briefly a handful of times, but from watching from the outside for virtually my whole life, he is a man who lived his more. Before coming to this country, he knew little about this place called America, but God placed a desire on his heart to come here, so he did. He didn't let the lack of money, the fact that he couldn't speak the language, or that he didn't know anyone deter him from that goal. Once here, he got an education and he worked hard, very hard, and he saved a lot. He truly was a self-made millionaire. But he didn't keep it to himself. He became one of the biggest benefactors our little city has ever known. During the service to celebrate his life, a couple of people told the story about how, as a young man working hard to scrape together enough money to help support his family, he approached a beggar who had nothing. He gave the man all the money he had in his pocket, 1 penny. Then he said a prayer asking God to allow him to be able to give more. God answered that prayer in a way that only God could. Without ever having had a conversation of more than a minute or two with this man, I could tell that he was a man who fully lived in integrity with his values. Clearly, he valued family, education, giving to others, and hard work. But what struck me the most as I listened to the many stories of this man wasn't what he had or what he did, but how much he loved. He clearly loved his family, but it was also clear that he loved this country, maybe more than any other I've had a privilege to meet. I'm sure it's because he migrated here and took the opportunities that were offered that made him appreciate America so much. Unlike so many of us born here, he didn't take any of it for granted. It made me think of how I could take a lesson from his life, how I value many of the same things he did, but I haven't always pursued those things with the single-minded determination that he clearly did. I realize that although I say I have integrity, in truth, I don't always live fully in self-integrity with some of the things that I value. Oh, don't get me wrong. If I give you my word that I'm going to do something, I will do what I say. And that is how I've always looked at it, and maybe just held a little bit of pride even in my integrity. But what I've learned recently is that I haven't always been integral into the promises that I've made to myself. There are certain areas of my life where I've carefully kept my desires for certain things deep in my heart. Because there was a conflict within me between the two different desires, I never fully committed to reconciling those conflicts. Although I'd studied the concept of yes and, which is basically a way to create both conflicting desires in my life, I'd never applied it to the part of me that wasn't really ready to give up some old habits that no longer served me. Without going into a lot of detail about all of that, I wonder if you, too, may struggle with living in self-integrity. Are there things that you would like to do, or maybe even feel that God is calling you to do, that you're not doing? Not all of us have a big calling like moving to a different country to start a new life. It may not even be something as dramatic as starting a whole new career, but I'll bet there is something you are feeling the call to do that you question or doubt. Or maybe not. Maybe you are more like a good friend of mine in that you have a calling and you fulfill it beautifully and willingly. I admire her in how she doesn't hold back on her calling at all. She's a newly retired elementary school teacher, and I love how, in addition to her call to teach, she was also called to be the person who covered all the other teachers and the students in prayer in her school. Throughout at least part of her career, she held short Bible studies at work, and if someone was injured or ill, she was on the ready to pray for that situation. I had the opportunity to visit her at church this Sunday and ask how she was feeling about not going back to work. I loved how she responded in that she is praying and, in fact, had received requests for prayers from other teachers to pray for the start of the school year this year. Now that is someone who takes their calling seriously. She is clearly living her more in not just that one area of her life, but in many areas. She is so encouraging and supportive, and anyone who is in her life knows that she deeply cares for people, especially our young people. And a major change in life like retirement is not going to change that. So what is your calling? Every one of us has one. Sometimes we need help to do ours, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's really a big thing, and sometimes it's so tiny that no one even knows we're doing it. But it is that thing that brings us joy and makes us feel complete. If you aren't sure what yours is, I'm guessing life feels pretty pointless. It happens way too often, and it can truly leave you feeling so very empty. That is why, as I mentioned last week, I'm so excited that I have connections with so many people who are out there to help others live their best life, to help others live their purpose and feel fulfilled. In fact, I've decided I'd like to share those stories of the people who are courageously stepping into their calling with you. Some of them are old friends, some are new friends. Others are people I haven't yet met, but all of them have a message to share with the world. By sharing their stories, I am prayerful that you will get a glimpse of what your more is and will be inspired to step into it by hearing how others have done so. Honestly, sometimes we have things we need to get through before we can think about becoming our best self, and some of my guests will be able to help with that too. I hope you will enjoy getting to know these people as much as I have. And if one of them feels like someone who can help you on your journey, I hope you will connect with them to learn if and how they could help. You see, not everyone is ready to go after their dreams with the determination like that man that I discussed earlier. Just like not everyone like me waits until their mid-50s to start theirs. We each have our own path, and we each get to choose how and when we are going to take that first step to fully live out our more. My best advice is to not put it off too long. God's plans will not wait for you forever, and the longer we delay to take action, the harder it will be to go for it. Having said that, if you are in the last stages of life and you are still waiting for the perfect time to start making your dreams come true, don't wait another minute. Do it today. Which brings me back to my self-integrity and my desire to travel and appreciate this beautiful country we call home. It's time. Just like it's time to do so many things I promised myself I would do. And when life ends, like it will for each and every one of us, my prayer is that someone will say at both of our celebrations of life, she truly did live a life well lived. Thank you for stopping by today. It means a lot to me that you would take the time out of your busy schedule to listen. I'm excited to offer a few things for you today. First, I've created a community where you who are a part of this Longing for More tribe can come together and have conversations about the things that truly matter. The name of the community is Live Your More, and you can find a link to join it in the show notes. It is a closed community so that only those who are of like minds may come together in a safe place to share life's joys, challenges, questions, and dreams. We can all help one another to begin one step at a time to live our more. Secondly, I will be beginning a challenge called 5 Days to Reconnect with the Things That Matter during the week of August 26th through the 30th. So I encourage you to watch for ways to participate in that over the next week. To be sure not to miss it, join the Live Your More community today. Thank you again for listening. I pray that you are inspired to go, be blessed, and live your more.